Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas. I'm Rochelle Ferguson. We are here coming up in today's show. In Nicaragua, the death of at least 3 anti-government protesters in the city of Jinotega revives tensions. Our correspondents on the ground sent us a report. Cuban legislators prepare for constitutional reforms that recognise private property and the market economy, but the government warns this isn't about embracing capitalism. Plus, keep our beaches clean. The Dominican Republic steps up the fight against tons of plastic spoiling its Caribbean shores. We begin in Nicaragua, where at least 3 people have died and many are missing after witnesses say police attacked protesters in the northern city of Jinotega. Well, since July 19th, President Daniel Ortega has ramped up arrests against demonstrators, calling for him to step down. Just as it seemed the protest movement was waning, the latest violence has revived tensions. Our correspondents on the ground sent us this report from Jinotega.
Maria is still in shock. Her 21-year-old son, Brian, was shot by police just a few hours ago.
I helped these kids as much as I could. I fed them, I attended the protests. I never thought that this would all end with the death of my son. But the fight goes on. We're not going to stop. And even though they've taken my son, I'm not going to give up.
The attacks lasted all night. The bodies of 3 young locals were found in the early hours of the morning. Anti-government protesters have been demonstrating for 3 months in this district of Sandino, in the city of Jinotega. Residents had agreed to take down their barricades after negotiating with the authorities, but police broke that truce on Tuesday night. Traces of the attack mark these walls.
The police chased them here and killed them, and then they turned back. They wanted to take their bodies away, not to leave any trace behind. If locals hadn't come out to tell them to stop, to tell them the dead couldn't hurt them anymore, they would have taken the bodies away.
Fear now divides residents here in Barrio Sandino. Some would prefer to keep a low profile from now on, but for others, each victim only stirs up their anger. After the death of her friend's son, Yadira is thinking about leaving the area to protect her children.
All of us are in danger here, even me. I'm taking a risk telling you this in front of a camera. But why am I doing it? Because we can't keep quiet anymore. In this place, you have to choose life or death. But if we choose to live, we want to be free.
Tensions are high in Sandino, where police are keeping a close eye on things. It might be far away from the mass demonstrations being held in the capital, Managua, but this little neighbourhood is fighting with every last strength it has.
Next, Cuban legislators are set to put sweeping new constitutional reforms in place that will see private property and market economy recognised, plus encourage foreign investments. Well, President Miguel Diaz-Canel has, however, warned that those reforms aren't a sign that the country is now embracing capitalism. Robert Sutton-Mattox reports.
Cuba can sometimes feel stuck in the past, but a new constitution is set to revolutionise Cuba's economy. Lawmakers have approved a new draft, replacing the 1976 Soviet-era Magna Carta.
This is a blessed opportunity that obliges us to rethink who we are as a nation, and with everyone's involvement, delve into the very spirit of the country.
2019 will mark 60 years since the 1959 Communist Revolution, but in the new draft constitution, there is one aim that is missing: building a communist society. The new goal: prosperous and sustainable socialism. Cuba will open up to more foreign investment, acknowledge the market economy, and most significantly, recognise private property, once seen as one of the core evils of capitalism. While communism may be left out of the draft, the Communist Party will certainly not be disappearing anytime soon. Article 224 reaffirmed the guiding role of the one and only Communist Party. But the Cuban government will undergo a major shake-up, starting with the creation of the post of Prime Minister, and presidents will be limited to 2 consecutive 5-year terms.
The day-to-day activity of the government will be led by a Prime Minister. There won't be a ceremonial president, but a representative president with functions linked to the government.
One clause will also open the door for same-sex marriage. The draft defines marriage as between 2 individuals, not a man and a woman. It's a far cry from the early days of Fidel Castro's Cuban revolution, when many homosexuals were sent to labour camps. LGBT rights, a cause championed by the revolutionary leader's niece, Mariela Castro.
I think we have the right to put another vision of marriage in place which is much more inclusive.
A new constitution to reflect a 21st century Cuba, or an affront to the country's unique soul and way of life. In the end, it will be the people who decide, with the final draft put to a national referendum.
The number of the week is 14,800. That's how many hectares of land have been charred by the Ferguson fire near Yosemite National Park in California. Tourists have been ordered to leave the park as firefighters battle to contain the wildfire. Officials, though, have stressed Yosemite isn't itself facing imminent danger from the wildfire. Authorities saying the park's closure is to carry out protective measures. The image of the week is a sea of plastic bottles. The Dominican Republic is stepping up efforts to clean up tons of plastic that's spoiling its Caribbean shores. Authorities making stemming the tide of pollution a priority. Lauren Bursticker has the story.
Every year, tourists flock to the Dominican Republic to experience its golden Caribbean beaches and turquoise waters. But since the passage of Tropical Storm Beryl, the island nation has faced a major environmental crisis. In the past 10 days, hundreds of tons of trash have washed up on its formerly pristine shores.
The Public Works Ministry has done a commendable job. We've removed over 520 tons of solid waste, which had been discharged into the sea.
NGO workers, local officials, and volunteers, in total, some 500 people have been working tirelessly to stem the tide of pollution. But the trash has kept building up, covering the landscape in plastic, a blow to the island's reputation as a natural paradise that could also damage its fragile ecosystem.
The great quantity of toxic waste, of plastic and metal components, is making animals sick, so it's a threat to species that aren't resistant to pollution. It threatens biodiversity, and it could also be harmful to humans.
Plastic pollution has become one of the major environmental challenges of the 21st century. Environmental groups estimate 5 trillion pieces of plastic, weighing around 250,000 tons, are currently floating in oceans around the globe.
To other shores now, and in parts of Costa Rica, sea turtle eggs are considered a delicacy, but it's illegal to collect them. The practice is having a terrible impact on local turtle populations. A government-supported conservation project is determined to reverse the worrying trend. Haxi Mars-Belkin has this report.
At Costa Rica's Ostional Nature Reserve, sea turtle nesting season is well underway. The olive ridley turtles are a protected species, but their eggs are also a delicacy here. For years, locals have been able to harvest the eggs unchallenged, but when the number of turtles coming to the area nosedived, a local wildlife organisation decided to take action.
Our success with sea turtle birth rates is down to us maintaining a clean beach and the careful work of local women who ensure that baby turtles can reach the sea. Each nest can produce between 50 and 70 baby turtles.
The offer was simple. Men clean the beach, women oversee the baby turtles' journey to the sea. And in return, local residents are allowed to legally collect 1% of all eggs produced. But poaching isn't the only threat to the local turtle population. Hundreds of tourists used to descend on this beach to witness the turtles at work, often crushing nests underfoot. Now they're only allowed to visit in guided groups of no more than 10.
I was born here, and I'm excited to work for the community. I do this with pride and with love. We get so much joy from the turtles, the big ones as well as the babies.
And it's working. Since the conservation project was launched, turtles here are taking to the waves in growing numbers.
Men and women gathered in Wisconsin for 3 days of timber sports competition. The 59th edition of the Lumberjack World Championships took place in the town of Haywood and attracted more than 200 professionals and amateurs worldwide. Events included log rolling, chopping, axe throwing and even boom running. That's a timed race across links of floating logs. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside the Americas. Very much up to date. See you again at the same time next week for all the news from north to south. Thanks very much for watching.